Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Jeanine and I'm very happy to present you our work Hexad-12, developing and validating a short version of the gamification user types Hexad scale, which was a common work of the HCI Games Group, the DFKI, and the University of Koblenz. So first we know that users differ in needs, behavior, personalities, and motivations. There have been a lot of studies that personality, for example, a big 5 typology, gender, age, and user and payer types have an influence on how we should design gamification. Because do we all like the same gamification elements? As the studies indicate, we don't. Now, imagine that you're planning a groundbreaking study on personalization of gamification. And you decide for the Hexad user typology, because it is designed explicitly for gamification and it has already been used to explain user preferences for gameful design in many domains. As a short recapture, the 6 hexatypes is a typology that was first imagined by Andrew Marchewski in 2015. It is based on self-determination theory and 4 drives theory, and basically it distinguishes different types of motivations when playing in gamified systems. So it is not a personality typology, but much more it is a motivational typology. But now you come to the problem that this questionnaire is like really long, and that can really increase dropouts and random responding. It decreases your data quality. It can conflict with other questionnaires that are already long. It is particularly cumbersome on mobile devices. It can interrupt immersive experiences, and it can hinder use in industry context. So basically, it's just annoying for users to have such a long questionnaire. And by the way, the psychometric properties are not even that good from the Hexa questionnaire. So this is where we got you covered. We present you today the Hexad-12, a shorter and better version of the Hexa questionnaire that you can use in your studies. And if you're now finished, just go on to the paper, grab the items and go on. But we will also show you now how we did that. So what we did was a sequential approach with 2 studies. In study 1, we analyzed an existing dataset, and we identified problematic items from the Hexad-24, and we systematically selected best items for a short version. And subsequently, in study 2, we analyzed a new dataset to validate our short version and to test our Hexad-12 against the Hexad-24. So let's start with our first study, the item selection process. For the item selection, we employed statistical and theoretical criteria. First, we looked into the reliability of the different scales and particularly how different items contributed to scale reliability. If they were omitted, how did scale reliability drop, for example? Second, we did an exploratory factor analysis with maximum likelihood and Promax rotation, and we forced 6 factors to see how the different items load on these factors and whether items that do not load so good could be omitted. For example, we see already here that F2 is causing a whole new factor on its own, so probably this item is really problematic. And third, we considered the theoretical facets of the different Hexad types. So, for example, let's take the philanthropist type. There we have the facet of willingness to help others. The items P1, P2, and P3 all refer to this aspect of the philanthropist. And on the other hand, we have empathy. The item P4, well-being of others is important to me, refers to empathy. So we made sure in the item selection process that we don't exclude empathy in this case, and we keep both aspects of the philanthropist player type. Let's have a look at an example of the player type. So what you can see here is that we carefully considered each item, and we considered the factor loadings, we considered the contribution to reliability, and we considered the theoretical facet, and then we decided either to include or to exclude the respective item. And that resulted in our Hexad-12. So now, very nice, we have this new questionnaire, but we ask ourselves, how good is it? Can we use it like that? And that's why we did study 2 to validate the short version. So let's take a look at study 2. What we did here is we employed statistical criteria and we carefully compared Hexad-12 and Hexad-24. First, we again took a look at reliability, and what we can already see here in the comparison is that for 5 out of 6 scales we have acceptable reliability in the Hexad-12, and in 3 out of 6 scales we even have a better reliability than for the Hexad-24. So there rests only one, the achiever scale, which is below the threshold of alpha of 0.7. Second, we did a confirmatory factor analysis with the hexad types as factors and the items as indicators, and we compared the model fit. And what we see here is that overall model fit measures, we have a better performance of the Hexad-12 than of the Hexad-24. And third, we analyzed convergent and discriminant validity by looking into composite reliability, average variance extracted, and shared variance of the factors. And what we can see here is that for the composite reliability, we have kind of an equal match between Hexad-12 and Hexad-24, because Hexad-12 is better in the disruptor scale, whereas the Hexad-24 is still better in the achiever scale. And for the average variance extracted, points go to Hexad-12, because in all scales, average variance extracted is acceptable, it's good, and it's better than the Hexad-24, where no average variance extracted is acceptable and is under the threshold. Also for discriminant validity, we are very satisfied with that. The average variance extracted is always greater than the shared variance of the factors, so we can say that we have a good discriminant validity of the Hexad-12. So generally we can say that reliability points go to Hexad-12 in 5 out of 6 scales, it's reliable. Model fit goes to Hexad-12, it's better in all means. Average variance extracted also goes to Hexad-12 in 6 out of 6 scales, and discriminant validity goes to Hexad-12. On the other side, we have the achiever scale reliability, where the Hexad-24 scores better, and also the composite reliability of the achiever scale, where the Hexad-24 scales better. And generally we would say that in composite reliability they are both equal. They have their strengths and weaknesses, but both are acceptable for 4 out of 6 scales. Now that we're comparing them, we should make sure before making any recommendations or discussing our results that they are measuring the same constructs. So for that, we did a canonical correlation analysis, where in the middle you see that canonical functions where the different scales load on, and we see that we have a large overlap of more than 99% between the different scales, Hexad-12 and Hexad-24. So we can really say they do measure the same thing. And this is good, because now we can look into the implications that we have from the analysis and the results and the validation study that we did. So when it comes to discussion of the Hexad-12, we can first say that we have improved the capture of hexad types in the Hexad-12. We have a better model fit, we have a better validity, and we are still measuring the same constructs as in the Hexad-24. But we must say that scale and composite reliability of the achiever scale decreased, and that maybe the 2 items that we selected may not be sufficient to capture all the theoretical facets of the achiever scale. So when you're not considering to use the Hexad-12, you should make a good decision between Hexad-12 and Hexad-24. The Hexad-12 is particularly suitable if all user types are of interest, because generally we have a better model fit and we have a better average variance extracted of the different types. It's also better if you're studying behavior of different user types under time-constrained conditions, or in combination with other questionnaires, or on mobile devices, or for certain target groups that may have difficulties in concentrating, such as elderly people or children. But in comparison, if you, for example, focus particularly on socially oriented user types, the Hexad-24 may be better because the reliability of the socializer and the philanthropist types was a little bit better in the Hexad-24. Even though it was good and acceptable in the Hexad-12, it was better in the Hexad-24. And so you may want to use the full scale with all the 4 items when you're looking particularly into socially oriented user types. And in the same way, when you have learning, education, or other contexts where achievement motivations are of interest, you may prefer the Hexad-24 because it has a better scale and composite reliability of the achiever scale and may capture these facets better. So when achievement motivations are of interest, you may prefer the Hexad-24. Please also keep in mind that our study has limitations. So, for example, we omitted F2 because it caused a whole new factor, and by this we lost the facet of curiosity. And we still don't know whether this is bad or not bad, because the scale validation was very good also of the free spirit scale, but we can only guess that, and you should keep that in mind. Also, there was no retest reliability examination in the Hexad-12, and particularly since it's only 2 items, it may be that retest reliability is influenced by that. And we used a subset of items of the Hexad-24. We did not develop new items, which is something that may be a good opportunity for future research, especially for the achiever and free spirit scales. But for our study, in line with other studies that have developed short scales, we decided for the subset of items. And that is also something that you should keep in mind. As a conclusion, we present the Hexad-12 as a valid new instrument for personalization of interactive systems, also beyond gamification, especially when assessment time is limited or many other measurement instruments are used. It seems that the shorter assessment time does not come at the expense of lower reliability or validity, and we assume that dropout rates can be reduced, data quality can be increased, and the Hexad may experience a wider adoption in industry. Second, our results support the theoretical construct of the 6-factor Hexad model, because the results of our factor analysis show that the hypothesized model, consisting of 6 traits, fits the collected data very well, and thus researchers and practitioners can make a more informed decision on which user or player typology to use. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are looking forward to see you on CHI in person.